Hi everyone and welcome to DM Your Mentors. This is your ACCA mentor Mridul Khanna, and today we will be doing the previous year question from PM, which is the Alka Hotel. If you have any doubts with regard to this question, do let me know in the comments down below, or even if you have any other queries, I'll definitely try my best to reply to all of them as soon as possible. Do give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more such ACCA question based videos. Alright, so here we go. So again, it is always recommended to first go to the requirements and just read them, because then you will be having an idea while when you will be reading the exhibits, you will be having an idea as to what you will be looking for in these exhibits. Okay, so here we go to the requirements. So the first requirement is using the current annual budgeted figures and ignoring the two proposed projects, calculate the break-even number of occupied room nights and margin of safety as a percentage. Okay, so two things it is asking here: break-even number of occupied room nights and the margin of safety as a percentage. The second part, ignoring the two proposed projects, calculate the budgeted profit or loss for quarter one and explain whether the hotel should close for the duration of quarter one. Okay. The third part, calculate the break-even point in sales value of project one and explain whether the hotel should adopt the project. Okay, so basically, as far as now it is asking to for us to perform some calculations, and then we even have to like explain from our calculations as to whether we should accept the project or not. The last part, using the graph, I'm guessing it's what it is talking about here. Using the graph, quantify and comment upon the financial effect of project 2 on the Alka Hotel. Note there are up to 4 marks available for calculations. Okay, so what I can see from here is that we would need to analyze this graph. So, and it is also said here that there are up to 4 marks available for calculations. This fourth part total carries 8 marks. So 4 marks for calculations and 4 marks for the commentary. Understood. Okay, so here we go. Now we will be reading the exhibits. The Alka Hotel is situated in a major city close to many theaters and restaurants. Okay. The Alka Hotel has 25 double bedrooms and it charges guests $180 per room per night. Okay, so this is right here our revenue here, regardless of single or double occupancy. The hotel's variable cost is $60 per occupied room per night. Understood? The Alka Hotel is open for 365 days a year and has 70% budgeted occupancy rate. Okay, so they have also given us here the occupancy rate, which means that what percentage of its rooms are occupied throughout the year. Fixed costs are budgeted at $600,000 a year and accrue evenly throughout the year. During the first quarter of the year, the room occupancy rates are significantly below the levels expected at other times of the year, with Alka Hotel expecting to sell 900 occupied room nights during quarter one. Okay, so they are expecting a lesser number of occupied room levels during this quarter one. Understood. Options to improve profitability are being considered, including closing the hotel for the duration of quarter one or adopting one of the two possible projects as follows. Okay, so they are thinking either they would be closing the hotel for this quarter or they would be adopting one of these two projects. Okay, so let's have a look at these projects. Project one, the theater package. For quarter one, only the Alka Hotel management would offer guests a theater package. Interesting. Couples who pay for two consecutive nights at a special rate of $67.5 per room night will also receive a pair of theater tickets for a payment of $100. Okay. The theater tickets are very good value and the result of long negotiation between the Alka Hotel management and the local theater. Okay. The theater tickets cost the Alka Hotel $95 a pair. So this is another variable cost that is added to this theater package, apart from the normal variable cost that would be occurred when we will be providing them with the room. The Alka's Hotel's fixed costs specific to this project, marketing and administration, are budgeted at $20,000. So the fixed costs specific to this project are $20,000. So this will be useful when we will be calculating the break-even point for this specific project. The hotel's management believes that the theater package will have no effect on their usual quarter one customers. All right, so the usual business would be kept running behind this, and this is the additional package basically which they are offering. I'll just read it again. The hotel's management believes that the theater package will have no effect on their usual quarter one customers who are all business travelers and who have no interest in theater tickets but will still require their usual rooms. Okay, it's the same thing which I talked earlier. Understood. Now we have project two, which is the restaurant. There is scope, there is scope to extend the Alka Hotel and create enough space to operate a restaurant for the benefit of its guests. The annual costs, revenue, and volumes for the combined restaurant and hotel are illustrated in the following graph. Understood. So this is the graph that has been provided to us, and from this graph, we need to interpret it basically as to uh, what are the new figures if we adopt this project too. What will be the new sales figures? What will be the updated cost? What will be the new fixed costs? And based on that, we would be calculating the other measures such as what is the margin of safety, whether it has improved from before, and the contribution and everything else. All right. So starting from the first part, I'll just write it here. It's best to just perform calculations in front. All right. So uh, just a second, guys. Hmm. So, using the current annual budgeted figures and ignoring the two proposed projects, calculate the break-even number of occupied room nights and the margin of safety as a percentage. So, in this part, we don't need to look at the project one and two. We simply need to calculate the break-even number of occupied room nights and the margin of safety as a percentage. Now, notice that they are asking for the break-even number and not the break-even revenue. So, what do we need to calculate the break-even number? To calculate the break-even number, we would be needing contribution per unit, which means contribution per occupied room night, and we would be needing the fixed cost, the total fixed cost that has. Are they asking for the whole year? Or yeah, using the current annual budgeted figures. So they are asking it for the whole year and not for just one quarter, the quarter one. All right. So we definitely have the data here through which we can calculate the contribution. Yeah, it is mentioned here. The Alka Hotel has 25 double bedrooms and it charges guests $180 per room per night. So this is our revenue per unit or revenue per occupied room night. We have this revenue. We have the variable cost. The hotel's variable cost is $60 per occupied room per night. So we can easily calculate the contribution per occupied room night. And again, I would be writing this in a way as you will be performing the calculations in your real exam. So you can copy this exact format and use the same exact format and practice questions using this. And the same you would be needing to use in the actual real exam environment. Then we have, so I'll be putting dollar sign here, contribution per occupied room night. So again, you need not to write revenue separately and variable cost separately. You can use the formulas in the Excel and calculate the contribution directly, which will be 180 minus 60. 180 is our revenue and 60 is our variable cost per occupied room night. We know the fixed cost for the entire year, it has been given to us. It is $600,000. Okay, $600,000. So I will write it as $600,000. And now we can easily calculate our break even point. So just a second. Which will be fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. So we got break even point as 5,000 occupied room nights. Basically, what does this mean is that you would be needing that the Alka Hotel would be needing 5,000 occupied room nights to break even, which means it will reach at that point where there is no profit or no loss. I'll just bold it. Yeah. So now we come to the margin of safety as a percentage. To calculate the margin of safety as a percentage, we first need to calculate margin of safety in terms of number. So in terms of number, I'll just write here margin of safety. So I guess I hope that you would be knowing how do we calculate margin of safety. Margin of safety is budgeted number of units, budgeted or actual number of units minus the break-even number of units. So this figure will come in handy for us to calculate the margin of safety. What is the budgeted number of units? I can just write it here, budgeted number of units or the units basically in this question for us is occupied room nights. Is occupied room nights, number of occupied room nights. So that will be, how do we calculate budgeted number of occupied room nights? What does it mean? It means that what do we expect that for the entire year, like how many rooms will be occupied throughout the entire year. How do we calculate that? It's pretty simple. It is already mentioned here. The Alka Hotel is open for 365 days a year. Understood. It has 25 double bedrooms and has a 70% budgeted occupancy rate. So basically, whatever total number of rooms it has, how many occupied room nights will it be if you just calculate the total number? It will be 365 days into total number of bedrooms. So this will be the total number of occupied room nights. If the hotel is booked entirely, if all its rooms are booked entirely for the whole year, then we would be using this figure. But they have given us a budgeted occupancy rate, which is 70%. So what does this mean? That only 70% of all the rooms during the entire year are occupied. So again, we will be multiplying this by 70, or you can even multiply this by 0.7 or 70% as you may like. When we multiply this, we get 6387.5. Now, this is also in terms of occupied room nights. Here we go. And now we can easily calculate both margin of safety in terms of number and in terms of percentage. What is the formula? Formula is to calculate in terms of number is budgeted minus the break-even number, which we have already calculated above. It is 1387.5, the margin of safety. Again, I will be writing it. And what if now we want to calculate in terms of percentage? So what is the formula here? I have seen students get confused in this formula. It is what they do. The formula for percentage MOS is budgeted units minus break-even units, or budgeted or even actual units in some of the questions. You divide this, sorry, you divide this by budgeted number of units, the same which has been mentioned in the numerator, budgeted actual units. Now, what is the mistake that most students do? That most students do is that they take break-even units in the denominator, which which will make the MOS incorrect. So always remember that you need to use budgeted or actual units in the denominator when you will be calculating the margin of safety in terms of percentage. So what is the margin of safety in terms of percentage? We have already calculated the numerator. It is MOS, which is 1387.5 divided by the budgeted number of occupied room nights. We get 20, like just 20, we get 21.72% as the margin of safety. I'll just bold all of these. Yeah, I'll just also add another line here. Right. So here we have here we have finished our first part. There is no explanation required whatsoever in this part, so you need not to write anything and waste your time. We come to the second part, which is B part. What does it say? Ignoring the two proposed projects, calculate the budgeted profit or loss for quarter one and explain whether the hotel should close for the duration of quarter one. Okay, so we need to perform a simple calculation here, and then we need to explain as well as to whether hotel should be closed or should remain open for this quarter one. Let's see. It is asking calculate the budgeted profit or loss. What do we need to calculate the budgeted profit or loss? I think to arrive at the profit, we need sales, variable cost, and fixed cost, and then we will be arriving at the profit. We know that contribution is sales minus variable cost, which we even have calculated here as a contribution per occupied room night. So we would be needing contribution for the quarter one minus the fixed cost for the quarter one, as it has specifically asked to calculate the budgeted profit or loss for the quarter one. So I think that subtracting fixed cost from the total contribution earned during the quarter one, we would get the budgeted profit, right? It's pretty simple. So to calculate the contribution, all right, total contribution, again, I'm saying because we have already calculated contribution per occupied room night already, you need not calculate separately the revenue and the variable cost. You can simply take this figure and multiply it by whatever were the occupied room nights during the quarter one. You will get your total contribution for quarter one. So I'll write it here for quarter one. So, okay. So now we need how many occupied room nights were, how many room nights basically were occupied during quarter one. I think it is already mentioned here in the question here it is. During the first quarter of the year, the room occupancy rates are significantly below the levels expected at other times of the year, with the Alka Hotel expecting to sell 900 occupied room nights during one. It is explicitly mentioned here that 900 occupied there were 900 occupied room nights during quarter 1. So we would be extracting this figure directly and using it. So to calculate the total contribution, we would be taking the reference of this cell and we'll multiply it by 900. We will get our contribution for quarter 1. Again, you can definitely use these formulas. You can take, just like I took the reference of this cell, you need not write 120 again and again. So this is the benefit of the ACC exam or the ACCA like workspace. When you give your exam, you will be provided with a similar Excel worksheet where you can use all these formulas. We will be subtracting less fixed costs. Now, always remember that if you have to find the budgeted profit for the quarter 1, you would be taking the contribution and fixed costs for the quarter 1 only. I'll write here quarter 1. How do we calculate fixed costs for the quarter 1? Hmm. It is mentioned that fixed costs are budgeted at 600,000 a year and accrue evenly throughout the year. Even if this second part is not given and accrue evenly throughout the year, then we can assume that this will be accruing evenly throughout the year. Okay, unless any other information is given as to, for example, they might have given you that for quarter 1, this is the specific fixed cost that you would need to use. But here, since specific fixed costs for the quarter 1 are not given, and it is said here that the total annual fixed cost for the entire year accrue evenly throughout the year, we would simply be using this figure and multiplying it by 4 because we need to find fixed costs for the quarter 1. So you can simply use $600,000 divide by 4. We get $150,000. I'll just put dollar symbol here. And now we have, and from the looks of it, I think we have the budgeted loss and not the budgeted profit. I'll just subtract it from this. We have budgeted loss of $42,000. Okay, so we have done the first part of this B part. What else it is asking? Explain whether the hotel should close for the duration of quarter 1. All right. So from its first glance, it might appear to you, since the, there is a loss, since there is a loss of $42,000 here, the the uh, the hotel should be closed for the quarter 1. But the actual the actual scenario, what it states is that the hotel should remain open. Why? Why the hotel should remain open when we have a loss of 42,000? Simply because we know that this is the contribution that we are earning. So if the hotel is closed, then we would not be earning this contribution. And then we have the fixed cost. Even if the hotel is closed, these fixed costs would still be occurring. These fixed costs would still be occurred even if the hotel is closed. So I think the contribution is helping out here to reduce this to reduce to basically reduce our loss of 150,000. If the hotel was closed for the quarter 1, we would be having no contribution of 108,000 to adjust with this 150,000. And our budgeted loss would be a whopping 150,000 and not just 42,000. So it is recommended what you would be needing to write here. I'll just show you. You would only need to write here The loss for quarter one is 42,000. If the hotel is closed during quarter one, then this would cause additional loss of 108,000. In bracket, it's the loss contribution, the contribution you would be making if the hotel was open. So I'll just repeat it again. If the hotel is closed during quarter one, then this would cause additional loss of 108,000 because fixed costs will still be incurred. This 150,000, this will still be incurred whether the hotel is closed or whether it is open. So to reduce its impact, to reduce our loss, it is recommended that hotel should remain open. And therefore, the last line you can write, therefore, the hotel should not close in quarter one. That's it. You need not write more than this, as it just carries 4 marks. 2 marks you have 2 marks, 1 to 2 marks you have got for the calculation, while the rest of the marks you have already mentioned here the reason behind. You have given the recommendation, you have explained as to why the hotel should not close in quarter one, you have given the explanation, and you have recommended. So you need not write more than this. That's it. You will get your full 4 marks. We now move to the question. We now move to the part C. What does the part C? Part C says, calculate the break-even point in sales value of project one and explain whether the hotel should adopt the project. Okay, so this becomes a little tricky here because of the calculations involved, but but we'll do it step by step so it is easy to understand. It is asking calculate the break-even point in sales value. Now it is not asking in number, but it is asking in the actual amount. I'll tell you 2 ways to calculate this, and one of the ways which is a bit longer, but it is easier to understand. And that will also come in handy for the explanation that it is asking for us to. That this part is asking us. So again, calculate the break-even point in sales value of project one. Again, we would be needing the sales, we would be needing the variable cost, we would be needing the contribution, we would be needing the fixed cost to calculate the break-even point. Let's go up and see the project one. We need to calculate the contribution. To calculate the break-even point, we would always be needing the contribution. So how can we calculate contribution here? If you see, couples who pay for 2 consecutive nights at a special rate of 67.5 per room night will also receive a pair of theater tickets for a payment of $100. So what I can see here is that this 67.5 per room night and this $100 is our revenue because this is what we will be receiving from the customer. Apart from that, the theater ticket cost the Alka Hotel $95 a pair. This is additional variable cost for the theater tickets that we will be offering. Apart from this, don't forget that we also have the variable cost for the room, which are 60 per occupied room night. So don't forget this. That 95 only relates to the theater ticket cost. The 2 days that the couple would be staying in the hotel, we would be incurring variable cost for the room as well. So if you see here, couples who pay for 2 consecutive nights, it is two specifically mentioned here would be getting the theater tickets. Means the couple who stay for just one night would not be able to avail this offer. So to calculate the contribution, basically what this package is offering is that you would need to stay in the hotel for 2 nights. So we would be calculating the contribution for 2 nights. Understood? So it's better, I think it's better that we break it down so that it is easier to calculate the contribution. Let us first look at the revenue that we will be earning. So revenue for two occupied room nights. What it will be? 67.5 into 2, it is 135. And then what was the another revenue that we will be receiving? It is $100 for the theater tickets. Revenue from theater tickets, it is $100. All right, so now we can sum it up. It is $235. This is our total revenue. Now we would be deducting variable cost from this. We have two variable costs here, one for the theater and one for the room, the room which they have occupied for 2 nights. So again, variable cost for two occupied room nights. For one night it was $60. For 2 nights it will be 60 into 2, 120. Then we have variable cost for theater tickets. It is mentioned to us in the question, it is $95. I can I can put negative sign here so that it is easier to apply the formula. And now since we have both the revenue and variable cost, we can easily calculate the contribution that we would be earning from this theater package. So this, I'll be just using this some formula here so that easier for everyone to understand. We get 20 from we get $20 contribution from one theater package. Always remember this is just from one package only. Don't try to like assume that this is for the whole quarter or for the entire year. No, it is specific. It is clear from the calculations that it is for offering just one theater package, basically to just one couple if they stay for 2 nights in the hotel. Okay, we had to calculate break even point in terms of sales. Again, fixed cost, we would be need fixed cost. So fixed cost are mentioned to us. It is only specific to the theater package, which is what we require. 20,000, 20,000 is here. And now there are two ways to basically calculate the break even in terms of revenue. I'll just write here method one. Again, you need not to write, you need not perform both the methods in the exam. I'm just telling you so that you can understand. Method one is using the CS ratio. CS ratio is contribution by sales ratio, where we will be dividing the contribution per package divided by the total revenue, which is 0.8. Just a second, is it correct? I'll just recap. Just a second, guys. I think there's it's not. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Sorry. I was like, I was flown in the way. So it is the ratio. So again, ratio. I was like, how? I thought that we were calculating some natural numbers. So like, how can we get this in 0. How can we get this less than 1? Okay, so this is ratio. Then this is absolutely correct. Now what do we need? We need to, now it is pretty simple to calculate break even in terms of revenue, break even in terms of uh, revenue. We simply need to divide the fixed cost by the CS ratio, and we would get our break even point in terms of revenue. Simple as that. But, 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 we have calculated it here. But in the part C, they have also asked that we need to explain whether the hotel should adopt the project. And from this, I don't really think that we can explain. Can you explain? You have just got the break-even point in terms of revenue. Can you explain from this whether the hotel should, whether this project one should be accepted or not? No, we would definitely be needing some additional analysis to 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 and basically to interpret whether we should accept this project or not. So for that, we would be calculating the break even in terms of revenue using the method 2, which which is, so this was the trickier one, and this is more of a simpler method, I would say. So we know that we know how to calculate break even in terms of number. So that's what we are going to do here. Break even in terms of number. Break even in terms of number would be fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. We would be getting break even in terms of number. And now, so how do we reach? We have reached the break-even point in terms of number of occupied room nights. How do we calculate in terms of revenue? I think it's pretty apparent here that we just need to multiply this number by the revenue per occupied room night, which we have already calculated here. It is $235. And if we see, it's the same result which we got in the method 1. However, the benefit of solving this via method 2 is that we got break even in terms of number. Okay, so now we have performed our calculations here. Again, there's a benefit in calculating the break even via method 2 because here we have calculated break even in terms of number. Now it is asking explain whether the hotel should adopt this project or not. So how can we basically interpret, how we can conclude whether the hotel should adopt the project or not? We can see that theater package would definitely be requiring additional rooms to be occupied so that this offer could be availed. And we should not forget that the usual business of quarter one will still be running behind, which means those 900 rooms, which was previously explained here, that 900 rooms will be occupied during quarter one. So apart from that, those 900 rooms will already be occupied, and we need to see whether this package, whether the requirement of this theater package, whether we have the sufficient capacity to accommodate people so that we can offer this package to the customers. So I'll just copy, I'll just paste it here. So, so to explain you, it would require 2,000 room nights in quarter one. Again, to avail this offer, it would require 2,000 nights. Why would be requiring 2,000 nights when the break even? Why would be requiring 2,000 room nights instead of 1,000 to break even. Why have I written here 2,000? It is because as per the offer, the customers need to stay for 2 nights. Only then we would be earning this revenue. From revenue, I meant this revenue of 135 plus $100 that we get from the theater tickets. If the couple stays for 2 nights, only then they could avail this package. And that is why we need 2,000 room nights to break even. But the available rooms for the quarter 1 are only 2,281. How did I calculate it? How did I calculate that? We know 9125. What is 9125 here? 9125 is the total capacity. It is the total availability of the room nights for the entire year. You remember I calculated here the budgeted number of occupancy room nights? If you remember, I explained you here that if we multiply 365 by 25, we get the total number of available room nights for the entire year. So this is exactly the same. I can just show you the calculation as well here. If I just multiply 365 from uh, multiply, we get 900 and 9,000 9,125 room nights for the entire year. We need to see how many are for just 1 quarter. So we divide it by 4. We Then we get 2,281.25. So the available rooms for the quarter 1 are only these, and the Alka Hotel has already sold 900 rooms. So it has already sold 900 rooms. To break even, in order to earn from this theater package, we would be needing 2,000 additional room nights, but we do not have sufficient capacity. 900 plus 2,000 would be 2,900 room nights, but but the sufficient the capacity that is available for the quarter 1 is only 2,281.25, so which shows the insufficient capacity, and therefore project 1 is not a viable option to undertake. So this is sufficient. You need not write more than this. I know this would even require a few calculations, but this would definitely carry some marks. Uh, I think as per the marking scheme, so it is like around 2 marks for the calculation, while the rest of the marks is for the explanation. So you would definitely need to write some explanation as to conclude whether this project should be adopted or not. So this is sufficient and to gain the full 4 marks for this part. Do let me know in the comments down below if you have any doubts as to how did we reach to this conclusion. Okay, so here we are over with the C part. Now we come to the last part, which, let's see what, using the graph, quantify and comment upon the financial effect of project 2 on Alka Hotel. All right, so there's no additional information. It's just written here. There is scope to extend. Just a second. There is scope to extend the Alka Hotel and create enough space to operate a restaurant for the benefit of its guests. The annual cost, revenues, and volumes for the combined restaurant and hotel are illustrated in the following graph. Now, if you see, they have just given the graph to us. Also, there's one note: the graph does not include the effect of theater package offer. Okay, understood. So we won't be considering that. So they have just given graph to us, and we need to analyze it and interpret as to what we can say about this project. So if we see, basically it has asked us, using the graph, quantify and comment upon the financial effect of project 2. what would be the effect, the financial effect? What do you mean by effect? By financial effect, it simply means that you would be looking at the newer sales, the updated sales, the cost, and they have given here margin of safety, and basically to conclude whether this is a good option. This is a good option, and I don't think we need to recommend here. Yeah, they have not asked here for any recommendation. Always remember, if they are not asking for the recommendation, that then you need not provide it. You simply need to quantify it. We need to perform some calculations, and then we have to do some commentary on those calculations. So from what we can see here, we have sales, total cost, fixed cost, margin of safety, and it is margin of safety. From margin of safety, it is showing here that 7,300. If this is the margin of safety, then 7,000 is definitely, as per the arrows, the 7,000 is definitely the occupancy, the number of rooms occupied, because we know the margin of safety formula, it is budgeted minus the break-even point. We know that the break-even point for us is 5,161 rooms, while the budgeted number of actual rooms is 7,300. So through that, we can also calculate what's the occupancy, and we can write that whether it has improved or whether it has reduced. Okay, so first, since they are saying that there are up to 4 marks available for calculations, we can, sorry, so we can first perform the calculations. All right. So to calculate the calculations, sorry, to just regarding the calculations, let's first look at the sales. And sales, when we since it is already given in the question that the sales has been given per room night, you need not calculate for the entire year, vagera. For the entire year, it will be absolutely okay if you can just like compare it and see whether the revenue per room night has increased or decreased. So I'll just write here revenue sales per occupied room night. So I'll put the dollar sign here. I'll put the dollar sign here, and I'll write here project 2, because this will then demonstrate that we are calculating it for the project 2. So how do we calculate sales per occupied room night? To calculate sales per occupied room night, they have given us the sales. So if you see the bars, the y-axis and the x-axis, here it is the y-axis is in amounts, whereas the x-axis is in the number of occupied rooms. So through this, I think we can easily calculate the revenue per occupied room night. It is clearly mentioned that the sales here total are 2,000 or $2 million if we just see the top heading as to what is the actual figure here. So to calculate the sales per occupied room night, it will be 200,000, sorry, 2 million divided by what were the number of rooms, occupied rooms? 8,000. Okay, so I'll just divide it by 8,000 and we get the sales. Not sales, you can write here revenue. That is a more uh, better word here. Revenue, but per occupied room night. Again, when we will be doing the commentary, we would be comparing it with the existing one when we have not accepted any project, and we will be seeing whether it has increased or decreased. Then we come to variable cost. variable cost per occupied room night. So it is, how can we calculate? So to calculate the variable cost, interesting. Now, if you see this graph, it is not clearly mentioned here as to what are the variable costs here. How do we calculate variable cost then? We know that we know the number of occupied rooms at each of these levels. We know what are the total costs here. 1560 are the total cost, and we even know what are the fixed costs. And I guess the total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost, right? So we can now easily calculate the total variable cost. And when we divide it by total number of occupied rooms, we can get variable cost per occupied room night. Simple. So total cost is 1560 and fixed cost is 800. And we have number of occupied rooms as 8,000. Always remember to take care of the zeros, be consistent. If we have used all the zeros here, sorry, if we have used all the zeros here, then ensure you used all the zeros. You enter the complete amounts in the other fields as well. So 1560 and another three zeros minus this is the total cost and minus the 800,000, which are the fixed costs. I'll go to enter the equal sign. We divide it by 8,000 units. Sorry, I did it with 800. Variable cost per occupied room night we have as $95. Again, we are not seeing right now whether it is increased or decreased. We'll simply see fixed cost. Fixed cost, we already know it is $800,000. Again, you need not calculate fixed cost for the per occupied room night as it was nowhere mentioned within the question. So we can simply compare the previous total fixed cost and the new total fixed cost, which is $800,000. Apart from this is now, see, these are simple calculation. You will definitely get some marks for this, but to get full marks, you would need to show that you have gone to a certain extent, just apart, a bit further than these simple calculations. What else we can calculate? We have got the margin of safety in terms of number. We previously calculated margin of safety in terms of percentage as per the part one. We can again calculate the updated margin of safety in terms of percentage. I'll just write it here, margin of safety in terms of percentage, which will be, so margin of safety here, I think, yeah, first we need to calculate in terms of number. Or we can directly just use the formula. It is 7,300 minus 5,161. All right. Equals to 7,300 minus 5,161 divided by, don't forget, always use the budgeted level, which is the 7,300 and not 5,161. We get 29.3 as the margin of safety, which if you see has improved from the previous figure, from the previous margin of safety when we had not, when we had ignored both the projects. What else we can calculate? What else we can calculate? If you see, we now have the updated budgeted number of occupied room nights, which is 7,300. And we know what is the total capacity of the hotel, which is 9125. If I remember correctly, yeah, it was 9125. Basically, the total number of available rooms, total number of available room nights for the entire year, it was 9125. So now we can also calculate the updated occupancy rate. Previously, it was 70%. Now we can calculate and check whether it has improved using this project. So 7,300 were our budgeted. What we are expecting that these many room nights will be occupied for the entire year, divided by the total number of available room nights. We get 0.8 or 80%. So we get 80% as our occupancy rate, which shows that this project, by adopting this project too, we have increased, the occupancy rate has been increased. So I'll just write here now we have performed all the calculations. It's now time to gain those additional 4 marks, which is the commentary. And we have already discussed almost all the commentary when we were performing these calculations. So give me a second and I'll just write here all the commentary. So that's it. That's all you need to write. Now, if you just look at the commentary, what does it say? Project 2 will cause the revenue per occupied room night to increase from $180 to $250. Simple as that. It's the same as what we discussed when we were calculating the revenue per occupied room night. What's next? The variable cost per occupied room night will also increase by $35 to 95, will increase by $35. Previously, the variable cost per occupied room night was $60. Now it is 95. So it has increased by $35. Just a second, I'll write here. Additionally, fixed costs will increase by $200,000 from $600,000 as to what it was previously. Here in the question, we can see it was $600,000 to $800,000 for the hotel and restaurant combined. So it is good if you mention that these new fixed costs, which is $800,000, is for the hotel and restaurant combined. Now, what is left? The MOS and occupancy rate. So as a result, the break-even point has also increased to 5161 occupied rooms, which means the hotel needs to sell more rooms to cover costs. Okay, so uh, occupancy rate and margin occupancy is the last point that we will discuss. But before that, we can also see, if we see that the the break even has also increased. So when we calculated in the first part previously, what was the break even point? It was 5,000 occupied room nights when we had not accepted any project. It was 5,000 occupied room nights. So it is increased, as it is clearly visible in the graph that the break-even point is 5161, uh, the number of occupied rooms. So as a result, the break-even point has also increased to 5,161 occupied rooms, which means now it's good idea to just add a few more words just to explain that what do we interpret from these? What do we mean from this? So, which is what I have added here, which means the hotel needs to sell more rooms to cover costs. As simple as that. Break even is basically no profit and no loss. So when previously we were needing 5,000 room nights, so we were able to cover our all cost with just 5,000 occupied room nights. But now we need 5161 occupied rooms, which mean so that's why I've written here the hotel needs more rooms to cover cost, or more occupied or more room nights basically. I'll just write here more room nights. And I'll also write it here, room nights. Last but not least, however, budgeted occupancy has also increased from 70%. Okay, so the first one, okay, the first 4 points were a bit negative, if I would say that, okay, the revenue has increased, that's a positive point, but the cost, the variable cost and the fixed costs have also increased. And the break even point has also increased. So what benefit did we get from this project? And that is why we also calculated the MOS and occupancy rate, because that is the final measure from which we can identify whether we have benefited from adopting this project. So budgeted occupancy has also increased from 70% to 80%, resulting in better margin of safety of 29%. We had previously calculated that MOS in terms of percentage was 21%. Now we have a better margin of safety. Basically, previously it would take we would have to lose 21% of our occupied room nights before we hit the break even point. But now it is 29% of our budgeted occupied room nights uh, reach, before we hit the break even point. So we are at a much safer spot now compared to before. Again, you need not write here whether you should accept this project or not, because it is not asked in the question. It has only been asked in the it has only asked to quantify and comment upon the financial effect, which we have done. We have performed the calculations. You will easily get 4 marks for these, and you will easily get 4 marks for this commentary too. Okay, so that is it for today, guys. The whole question is complete. The whole answer is in front of you. Again, let me know in the comments down below if you have any doubt with regard to this question, or you have any other query. Subscribe to our channel if you want more such ACCA question based videos, and I will meet you in the next video. Thank you.